Okay, let's cross live now to Benin City, where Christy Macaulay, or is it Ovieteme George, is standing by for an update. Hello, George. Tell us, how was it like today? We saw at least about 4 of the governorship candidates expressing great satisfaction, at the outcome of the voting process, and we understand collation is already ongoing. Bring us up to speed with the situation in Edo State.
Good evening, Christian Ogodo. It is beautiful to note that the political party candidates are saying almost the same thing, this time about the electoral umpire body, that is the Independent National Electoral Commission. So the common denominator here is it was a well-organized exercise and everyone seems to be hopeful. But I tell you, it's that time of an election day where uncertainty hovers like a cloud over the electorate, over the stakeholders, over the political parties, because everyone seems to be saying they are doing well. But who is going to win? Nobody knows. So until INEC begins to announce the results, that's when people get to know who has actually won. So for now, it is more like people waiting with bated breath who is going to win. So it is beautiful to note also that violence, which characterizes elections in Nigeria, may be reducing. Maybe a few cases reported elsewhere, and not much that one can lay an alert finger on, but that issue of vote buying is still being heard in some circles. But in all, it was a peaceful exercise, and the people are waiting for the results to be announced. But it's also news to say the candidates are upbeat about the outcome. So it is healthy for me to say that. But then, not every voter that got their permanent voter cards turned up for the exercise. Nevertheless, people are happy with the participation in Edo State, talking about the Edo governorship election. The number was quite impressive, even though some did not turn out. It was indeed a rainy day in Benin. Well, I was at Eroimi Ward 1, Unit 3. That was where the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate cast his ballot. That was where he exercised his franchise. It rained almost all through. So it took people to come out to participate. One thing I have noticed that gladdens my heart is seeing the elderly, the aged coming out. At a point, one wouldn't know if the elderly are more or were more in number than the youths who came out to participate in the exercise. It clearly shows that the people are interested in electing the one they want, whatever the political party is. They want somebody that connects with them, not just in the city Benin, which is the urban area.
Absolutely, Ovieteme. You made mention of this election being very peaceful and not, one or two skirmishes, has been reported, in terms of violence. Kudos to the frontline agency, security agency, that is the Nigeria Police. And of course, kudos too to the Nigerian military, where the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, was in Benin, to drum it into the ears of all stakeholders that violence would not be tolerated. But another critical issue that observers, noticed during the elections, and like you mentioned, is vote buying. How rampant was this during the Edo governorship election?
Sadly, there were cases reported in Edo Central. I wouldn't know about Edo South. You see, even Edo North, because I couldn't really go around all those places. But take it or leave it. We have to come to face the reality that vote buying, sadly, is now woven tight into the fabric of our electioneering processes. Before leaders are elected, monies change hands. Not in the public glare as it used to be, You see, they always devise a way of doing this thing. Now, we were told that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, deployed its men to various polling units in the various local government areas, of course, the wards and all that. But you see, while they are devising a means to stop this, those who are actually participating or practicing it are using another method. It's like what Chinua Achebe said in Things Fall Apart, that Eneke Ntioba said, if the hunter has learned to shoot without missing, then the bird will fly without perching. So there are always this back and forth. But I tell you, it has come to stay. Except there are strict laws to deal with vote buyers and vote sellers. This, I'm afraid, may continue for a while, because some persons will just come on that day and believe they can have their way. A few persons were arrested. Now, after arresting them, would they be prosecuted? How many persons have been shown or dealt with to show as a deterrent to others? So somehow, it is a sad narrative. When you talk about elections in Nigeria, it is a recurring decimal. Who will stop it? I don't see it stopping anytime soon, Christian.
A sad narrative indeed. Now, very quickly, Ovieteme, can you tell us if the results are already being collated, that where the INEC is going to announce the results at the collation headquarters there?
Okay, there are cameramen there. There are television stations. There are other journalists also there. We have our men there also waiting. I don't think that is likely to be done today. But I tell you, almost 70 to 80% of the results have been uploaded in the IREV. That's INEC indicated there, not indicating the parties winning or losing, but we know that information is out there, even as at an hour ago. But we wait, because whatever we know, INEC is the only authority to announce who has won or who hasn't won. So we're just waiting. It's almost done. The speed at which INEC has done this time around is quite interesting. It's quite heartwarming, because oftentimes when there is a delay, most persons begin to feel they will be shortchanged, that the results may be altered. But this time around, INEC has quickly updated that about 80% of the results are out. So we are just waiting. From here, we'll proceed to the collation center. It's open already. If it is not done now, then I believe in the morning the results will begin to trickle in, as in authentic results will be announced. But by tomorrow, just as it is in William Shakespeare's Macbeth, when the hurly burly is done, when the battle is lost and won, we will find out who the winners are and who did not win. I don't want to use the word losers.
All right, thank you so very much. It's a waiting game, and well, the media houses are all gathered in the collation center. Thanks very much, Ovieteme George, our correspondent in Benin City, the capital of Edo State.
Thank you.
And here in the studios, we have Armsfree Ajanaku, who is the media head center for democracy and development. Very warm welcome to Newsnight, Armsfree. Now, you had our correspondent there. From your own observation, CDD's observation, with a plethora of observers that you have in Edo State, how did the CDD see the governorship results today? I mean, election today, rather.
Yes, thank you so much, Christian. The narrative, the reporting by Ovieteme, wonderful reporting, kind of tallies with what a vast majority of our observers found on the field. First of all, CDD had words of commendation for the stakeholders in this process, particularly the political stakeholders, for in the middle of the process bringing down the tension, which they had ratcheted up in the build up to the election. The fact that they were all unanimous in saying that this process has played out well, even though not a perfect process, but it has relatively played out well, and they are all satisfied with how the process has played out. We also observed that. We also were very heartened, and we really commended or had words of commendation for INEC. Because we saw that even in areas where there were slow starts of voting, you still had a situation in which the voting, when it started, went on very seamlessly, and there were really no challenges in the process. For example, our observers saw that in 94% of the polling units there were BVAS machines available,
and working.
And they were working. And more importantly, for the transparency of the process, our observers saw BVAS machines that read 000, signifying that nothing has been preloaded on it. So by and large, in terms of how we want the democratic process to play out, the beauty of democracy, the supremacy of the will of the electorate, we have seen that at least up to the point of the end of voting. And that was why in our preliminary statement today, we also called on the people of Edo State to maintain this momentum, where even though we knew also the elements maybe contributed to the calmness a bit, the rain showers that happened in some places in Edo State also contributed to that. It was a calm process, and this is the way the electoral process should be. It should be a celebration of democracy. It should be a celebration of the choice of the people. So in that context,
and the security agencies, they've done a marvelous job, you would say.
Absolutely. I was here in this studio yesterday, and when there were concerns being raised about the heavy deployment, the question was, there was a consultative process, that led, to that deployment, and we have seen that result. We have seen also what it takes when everybody is on the same page, drumming the same message that this is about service to the people of Nigeria. This is about, giving the Nigerian voter the opportunity to go out there and
for their voices to be heard.
Absolutely. And knowing that, the nature of this election, the Edo election was really very competitive. In fact, in our CDD pre-election statement, we describe it as the bellwether election. Bellwether in the context of setting the pace for other elections that are to come, particularly the 2027 general elections. So this election was going to be like a pace setter, a trend setter for elections in Nigeria. And we are really very impressed with the competitive spirit that has followed the election. And definitely the outcome will also show that competition, that competitive spirit that has been
displayed so far.
Yeah.
All right, but another maybe kudos again to INEC. It's an off-cycle election. Some, critics or cynics who want to say, Beavers worked.
Absolutely.
You're surprised?
Yeah, we are not surprised, because we have also seen
more than 90%.
Yes. It was a phenomenal result in terms of how the Beavers worked. In terms of even you could hear the Labour Party governorship candidate talking about how it took him just like 3 minutes, and to
voting was over.
Yes, and all of that. But we have also seen in other off-cycle elections in this country where the Beavers experienced several glitches, and in the end, even though you are saying this is not a general election that INEC is deploying on a wide scale, they still had those same challenges. We saw a lot of challenges in other elections. So whatever INEC has done this time that has led to the kind of improvement we have seen should be studied very closely, and in subsequent elections we should be able to build on that.
On it, yeah.
And for us as civil society, we want to also be able to build on the optimism, because we don't always want to come out here and lament. When we see some very interesting developments in the electoral process, we want to drum it, because we want to build the confidence of the voter. Don't forget that across our region, the West Africa region, democracy is challenged. So any opportunity we have to send that message out there that you can trust the democratic process. You know, the democratic process can work for you. It can help you to change leadership. Yeah, in the pre-election period, there were issues that, came up here and there. For example, like in Edo, the fact that some candidates didn't want to sign a peace accord, or some parties didn't want to sign a peace accord, we didn't really like that. The fact that some candidates did not want to debate, because the first step to electoral accountability is what the candidate is able to put out there. And so when a candidate runs away from that first step of democratic accountability by not even engaging the voters, it becomes a problem. So we want to see in our advocacy, we have already said it, that we want the Peace Committee to be able to also re-engage political stakeholders in subsequent elections, such that everybody signs the peace accord and everybody commits to a debate. Because we found that where candidates run away from debates, they most of the time turn out to be very bad leaders, because it means they have not put forward their ideas, and they've not also gotten feedback within the context of the ideas they're putting out, for governance.
Yes, absolutely. Now, let's look at another critical issue that's come up to play from what the feelers were getting from the field, is that over 80% of the results have been uploaded from polling units onto, the IREV. Another strange phenomenon, happening in Edo. Something must be unique about the election in Edo and Edo itself.
Yes.
Tell us, Armsfree.
Yes, so for that, again, it's another very cheery development, especially against, that checkered history of our elections, where after voting, there's anxiety, people are waiting endlessly for the results, and INEC brought on board the innovation of the IREV as a way of deepening transparency, to say outside the normal collation, you also have a
an electronic
a transparency mechanism, which again also had its own contradictions in terms of people now thinking that was also a collation process. INEC having to now explain that no, this is just a transparency mechanism to give all the stakeholders the opportunity to see what is happening with the process. And with that, I think a lot of confidence is being built. Like I said earlier, whatever INEC has done in Edo, we need to take a closer and deeper look at it, and then ensure that we are able to build on that, especially as we take steady and very firm steps towards the 2027 general elections.
Yeah, I think these issues are really key. But, like I said earlier, kudos to INEC, but some will say, oh, it's just an off-cycle election. Come 2027, even the beavers won't work again. IRF, they won't be able to transmit, citing maybe the 2023 general elections experience and the rest.
Yes, so for us, let's build on the optimism. Let's build on the good result, the good outcomes we're seeing. Yeah, we have also seen some of those old issues rearing their heads. For example, the question around vote buying. How do you really put your foot down, or how do we put our foot down as a country to ensure that we stop vote buying in the process in this particular context? And that's part of what CDD also flagged in our pre-election statement, which where we talked about the role the economy is going to play. And we made that very clear that vote buying and vote selling, vote trading will become like a very attractive prospect against the background of the economy, against the background of why not using that as a justification, just to say that in a situation of rising inflation, the fuel,
poverty,
the hunger and
people
poverty,
will go for the money, but would they be able to vote their conscience here?
Yeah,
Would
so they won't be able to vote their conscience, having taken those kinds of inducement. But what we have also tried, to canvass is the social norms approach, the behavior change approach, not just to pontificate, but to help, get the people to see that this is also driving the kind of bad governance you're seeing.
Because that you're having.
Yes, and we have continue with that advocacy. So another very critical aspect is also voter education. Voter education, which we did not see the political parties doing much of it in this Edo election. And that is why today on election day, you also had several instances which our observers reported where voters did not know where their polling units were. There were some of such instances in, either in Edo Central or in Edo North, where voters couldn't, because the political parties, should actually be at the forefront of educating the people who come to vote for them. So it's not just
supporters.
Yes, it's not just the work they would leave for INEC and civil society organizations alone. They, in a sense, are the ultimate beneficiaries of what the voter would do on election day. So they should invest in that process. But rather, what did we see in several instances in the pre-election period? We saw them investing more on narratives and tactics to undermine their opponents, and that's why there was also a deluge of disinformation in this election. For instance, the CDD War Room, supported by the National Democratic Institute, we flagged 35 disinformation, fake news, misinformation in this election between the pre-election period and on the morning of election. In fact, as late as last night, there was a trending information around, a candidate stepping down and all of that. But to pivot back to vote buying, I would say no party can say the other party was not guilty of it
or outdoing each other.
Yes. So it was just a matter of all the parties, especially the dominant parties, getting involved in the vote buying. Particularly the PDP and the APC were guilty of this anomaly.
Thank you so very much, Armsfree Ajanaku, for that substantial analysis on the outcome so far of the Edo governorship elections. We are still awaiting collation and announcements of results. And from our field man there, he said that may probably come in tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But we'll still keep in touch with you.
Right.
Armsfree Ajanaku, Center for Democracy and Development.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's go on a short break. And when we come back, we'll still have Armsfree here with us, yeah. Okay, we're live from Edo State again with Victor Giwa, who is the National Coordinator Advocate for People's Rights and Justice. Hello, Victor. Thanks for joining us on Newsnight. Tell us what's been your experience so far, during the voting period.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been... contrary to the general report, it has been a very relatively peaceful, issue-free election in Edo State. Our observers are in the 18 local governments in Edo State. From the various reports we have had so far, it has been relatively peaceful. Of course, there's a lot of presence of security agencies, election materials. Of course, in certain 60% of the local government election materials got to their various units very, very late, mostly because of the issues of logistics, vehicles to move the materials and the ad hoc staff to their various units, combined with the early rain, that showered, during the morning. But besides those pockets of issues, I think it has been a very fair process as at the time the voting ended.
All right, yes, very fair indeed. As even all the key actors and players in the Edo governorship election have attested to. What would you attribute, first, the turnout has been good despite the inclement weather. What would you attribute it to? Some vigorous enlightenment campaign of the voters to exercise their civic rights and responsibility, or just the usual political eagerness for change?
Well, in terms of turnout, the election is being, as at now, is fair, but the turnout is not commendable. I mean, we have 2.2 million people, registered voters that have collected their PVC, but I can bet you the total number of registered voters we are going to be having, as the result will be, coming up, will be less than 500,000. I can assure you that, because from what we saw on the field today, the turnout is very, very low. I mean, you will see units that have 1,000 registered voters having 100 persons who came to vote. You will see units that have 700 registered voters. You will see 80 people coming to vote at the end of the voting process. Apart from that, the poor turnout, like we said, and like you have attested to, other things went well. I think the Edo people were ready for the election. They were confronted with very viable candidates. The candidate for the Labour Party, Olumide Akpata, a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association. The candidate for the PDP, Aswai Godalo, brilliant lawyer, wonderful pedigree. So, and of course, the candidate for the APC, and others. So it is a situation where the Edo people wanted to establish, they wanted to, they came to express, their right of their choice of who will govern them. I think because they have suffered from a lot of bad governance, they feel that they are entitled to something better. I mean, Nigeria have suffered seriously from bad leadership, and every person or individual, state, community that have the opportunity to make a choice of who governs it, we seize that opportunity, and that is what the Edo people have done today.
That's quite commendable, like everybody, is said. But the SAR point is still money politics, still playing critical role, you want to say. Vote buying, as they put it, and the rest. And that's the black spot in our democracy, isn't it?
Well, I think there are a lot of comments and reports about vote buying, but I can tell you that the incident of vote buying was not as rampant as it has been. We have been observing election for the past 15 years, and what we saw today is a far cry from what, in terms of the vote buying, from what we've had in past elections. Yes, there were incidents of vote buying, but like I said in a particular news platform, that it was more systematic. So it was not visible. It is not as visible as it has been in the past, where voters were moving with their phones, go to ballot where they cast their ballot papers, snapped the political party that they have voted for, and the agent of each of the political party will be somewhere, and they show the agent that, oh, I voted for party A, and they expect to get paid for voting. So now, because of the INEC guidelines and upgrades in the policy, one, you cannot go with your phone to the polling, to the voting point at the polling booth, so you cannot take picture. It is a secret ballot. You go by yourself, and so that has reduced it. So the issue of incident of vote buying is, although it has been systematic, but you see, you cannot remove that totally from our culture. The process of voting itself is you cannot divorce money. I mean, politicians go out to campaign, and in the course of campaign, they give out rice, they give out clothes. That is, I mean, so you cannot totally eliminate it, but it was not visible at most of these polling units. Yes, some people voted because they were promised of money,
but it is not something you can physically say that, oh, you saw physical exchange of money within the polling unit. No, I mean, if it happens, that will be very, very remote. But from the feelers and the reports we have gotten from our observers, there was no visible, vote buying process. But of
Inducement
course, the incidents are there,
yeah.
Yeah, the inducement, yes. They are normally, yes, the incidences of those
Was not so
money inducement,
palpable or
of course,
glaring
they are
and the
there.
rest, and it is
It's
reducing.
not so palpable, it's not so visible.
Yeah.
Yes, it is not.
Yeah.
They did it more systematically and all of that. Yeah.
Getting
yeah.
sophisticated now, you want to say. Well, thanks so
Yeah,
very
that
much.
is the word. Yeah, politicians have gotten sophisticated. Yeah.
Well, thanks so very much. Victor Giwa is the National Coordinator, Advocate for People's Rights and Justice, speaking to us from the Edo State's capital, Benin. Okay, Newsnight continues after the break. Stay with us. Don't go away.